we are back with Heather Brace, our elementary teacher, talking about IEPs. So on our last part, you had started to talk about accommodations and making sure appropriate accommodations are included in the IEP. So what are some examples of accommodations, or what does that mean, and what does that look like in an IEP?
Accommodations are certain things that are provided to a student to help kind of level the playing field, to not make things easier for them, but to make things so that they could be a little bit more independent and successful. Okay, some accommodations that a student might need would be extended time on tests. Sometimes they might need frequent breaks built in throughout their day. A calm down area, maybe a specific behavior plan that's individualized towards the student, help with self-help skills, certain breaks throughout the day. I have some students who have, taking a walk would be an accommodation at times when they're frustrated. It really is not a one-size-fits-all. It's not like a checklist that you sit and say, oh yes, I want all of it, because we do have some parents come in who are like, I just give them everything. And what we really have to kind of explain to the parent is, you want to give them what they need. If they don't need it, you want them to be independent, like you don't want to give them a calculator for math if they can do it. You really want to give them something that just kind of gives them that extra little help, but you still want them to be able to learn and be independent. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's really, you have to think about that student and what they need, what they struggle with, and what would help that student. Even something as simple as a special pencil, a pencil grip, or a highlighter, or highlighting tape, a special chair so that they can have movement. It's really kind of like handpicked and individualized for that student.
So any of those things that they're needing, the parents should make sure that they're specifically included in the IEP, like
right.
the chair, the walks, like all of those little things should be in the IEP.
Yes.
And that's good to know, because we've struggled out in the past, because I think as a teacher you get to know the child and you automatically maybe make certain accommodations
right.
for the child during the day, but then our biggest worry, I know, at least for us as a parent, is we worry, there was one teacher and they're doing great, but the worry is always at the end of that year,
right,
we don't know who they're going to have as a teacher next year, and that teacher's not going to know all the little things that you've learned throughout the year. So would you recommend, are those usually updated at the end of, for transitions?
For me, I absolutely try to update that. Usually our IEPs are towards the end of the year, but anything that I'm using that's special with a student that I've seen that's worked is an accommodation, and you can put that in there. So something even just like a token board, or like a stars, working for stars, like NOAA that wouldn't work for anything else except stars. So to make sure that's in there, because going to another teacher, you don't want to have that where she's having to try to figure it out and he's struggling. You want it to just kind of flow and work right away. So anything as simple as, a chair, to having maybe Play-Doh at their desk or a certain fidget, anything that works, like we make sure to update it.
So, and do you have to have a formal IEP meeting for those things to get added and updated, or?
No, if for some reason we had our annual IEP meeting and I realized, oh, I forgot to add something, what it would probably happen is that the parent could come in and we can make that change, or it could be done over the phone as a phone conference.
So that's good to know, because I think that's a big concern. It's always towards the end of the year, and obviously you have a lot of kids,
right.
Every school has a lot of kids to try to fit in all those meetings at the end of the year, but we can ask for an update to it even over the phone at the end of the year before that change to the new teacher.
Right, because I've had an IEP back in January, and unless the parent calls one or we need one, there won't be one at the end of the year. But if there was something that needed to be added that I didn't put on there, I would definitely call it, or the parent would, we would schedule a phone conference, or we could even meet, and they have that right to come in face to face also.
Okay, perfect. Another thing is, I know a lot of parents, and we've been lucky with our school and our teachers, but in talking with other parents, I know a lot of parents struggle with getting communication from the teacher, or like how they know, like how do we really know what's happening during the day? You know, if our child's having behaviors or having meltdowns or struggling with certain things, they might not find out until the, you know, IEP meeting once a year.
Right.
So is that something that parents can ask for, as far as specific types of communication between the parent and the teacher?
Absolutely, and that is something also for under the accommodations for the parent to request too. If you would like daily homeschool communication, whether it be, you know, even a class dojo or written in an agenda or a notebook or face-to-face, you know, that's something that you could definitely bring up and do that. I know for me and a lot of the teachers that, you know, I'm blessed to work with on my team, it's something that we naturally do just to make sure that we have communication with the parents. But, you know, there's some that don't. So to make sure that you know what's going on, especially if there's some behaviors or struggles that are happening, that you're having that communication. So that's something definitely to make sure you talk about at a meeting and make that expectation for that team to say, you know, I would like, you know, every day, just a little note in the agenda or a behavior sheet that says, you know, hey, like, you know, how many stars he got or how he did today. You know, it looks different for every situation and every child.
Right. But so whatever is agreed upon that communication will look like, that should be or can be specifically added to the IEP. So
yes,
then the teacher, if it's on the IEP, legally it has to be provided, correct?
Yes. And it would go under the accommodation section.
Okay, I think that's good for parents to know, because I know that's a big frustration for a lot of parents, that they just don't have any idea because they don't get the communication.
Right.
So last thing I think is a BIP, or the behavior intervention plan. Can you talk a little bit about that, as what it is or when it would be used, or what we should know as a parent?
Well, behavior intervention plan is, you know, not for everybody. Not all students have that. If you have an IEP, it does not mean that you have a behavior intervention plan. I want to stress the difference between, you know, teachers use behavior plans in class, like ways to classroom management, like reinforcement, classroom economy, you know, working for rewards. That's different than this actual official plan. So in order to get a behavior intervention plan, it's a long process. So your child would have been struggling extremely with some significant challenging behaviors, whether it be, you know, some aggression, self-injurious behaviors. It could be just task refusal, some focus issues. It really just depends. But there would have been a process with that classroom teacher of weeks of data. So before that behavior intervention plan is written, there would have been a functional behavior assessment. And what that is the teacher is taking data on that target behavior. So let's say the target behavior is physical aggression. The teacher would have taken at least minimum 4 weeks of data during the exact same time of day, exact same subject, okay? And you would meet with a parent at a meeting to go over that data, okay? And data can look in a variety of different ways. But basically for physical aggression would be like tally marks, frequency of how often it's happening.
Sure.
Then you would kind of look at, the whole team would look at why is this behavior occurring? What is the antecedent, or what happens before? Why do they think this behavior is happening? Is it because they're upset? Is it because they don't want to do the work? Is it, you know, it's a variety of different things.
Okay, after the functional behavior assessment is completed with the data from the teacher and usually a behavior team, you would meet to write the behavior intervention plan. And what that is, it's a specific customized plan targeting that challenging behavior. So for example, if the target behavior was physical aggression, there would be something that you would call a replacement behavior, something that would still give that same output of that aggression to replace that with. So for example, maybe a calm down area where they're squeezing something when they're frustrated or hugging a stuffed animal, something that would replace that physical aggression. But it would have to be directly taught to that student. It's not something that you would expect the student to just pick up right away. Direct instruction of that replacement behavior is definitely necessary in order for the behavior to be kind of fixed.
Sure, that makes sense. So is it usually something the teacher would suggest or a parent should reach out about? Like, how does the behavior plan usually get started?
It can be both. Usually it's coming from the teacher or the team that works with the child because it's what you see in the classroom every day. Typically, we've had parents who've had concerns with behaviors at home, but it's not something that we write plans for behavior at home. There are outside agencies that do make plans for home situations for families.
Sure.
So typically the teacher's the one who calls the meeting and says, these are the things that I'm seeing. I have concerns. I think they may need a little bit more than what, I'm doing every day in the classroom with the basic normal behavior plans.
Sure. But it is something, if you feel like as a parent that you're hearing your child's having a lot of behaviors and it's not getting better and they don't seem to be decreasing throughout the year.
Absolutely.
Then they should, as a parent, is it something you should ask for or insist on? Absolutely. Or can you insist on if you're not seeing a decrease, if they're not seeing a decrease in the behavior? Because obviously then we would assume whatever is being used isn't working.
Right. Absolutely. If there's issues, especially with behaviors and concerns, the parents have every right to bring that to the table. Behaviors, you want, if it's a negative behavior, it's something that's challenging, you want it to stop. And most likely, hopefully, the parent and the teacher have been communicating, trying different things, because the behavior intervention plan is something that is more restrictive. So hopefully, as a team, you're all communicating, trying a variety of different least restrictive ideas. And when those don't work, the next step is definitely the behavior intervention plan. And in my experience, the teachers and parents have pretty much been on the same page.
Perfect. Well, thank you. I think this is so helpful. The IEP process is so intimidating for parents. I think, and it's so important for parents to understand that it shouldn't be a negative experience and it shouldn't be a scary, experience, and that they are an important piece of it. So, I really appreciate your insight on that, and hopefully helping parents feel a little bit more comfortable with the process and knowing what to expect and what they can ask for.
Right, absolutely. And just remember that the parent is a specialist. You're the specialist of your child and the most important person in that meeting. So, it's definitely something to remember when you're going in there and you're nervous.
Yeah, for sure. And they can, I know you said they could bring an advocate. Is a parent able to bring anyone? Can they bring a therapist with them, or?
Yes. I mean, there's somewhere, I've had parents and their sister is an ESD teacher. So she comes in, it doesn't necessarily have to be an advocate. It can be you can bring anybody with you. Okay, maybe just someone who is another teacher or a therapist who works with your child. Yep, anybody who you want.
Perfect, that's good to know. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all that you do for our kiddos. We so appreciate you.
Thank you. We appreciate great parents who are great advocates, and you're definitely one of those.
Thank you.